Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go live in just a minute or so, giving everybody time to connect. Give it one more minute. I see that the numbers keep coming up. Every second, there's a few more people connecting. So we will give it just another 30 seconds or so to give everybody time to connect before we start. And we just got a question asking if there is interpretation in French. No, I'm afraid the event is only in English, but the videos will be available in French. Okay, I think that we can now start our event live. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this very special event. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. If I look at my computer screen here, I see 300 of you connected already, which is a great number to start the day. And of course, you will be following us online from all over Europe. You can also follow us live on YouTube, and you can also view the videos afterwards. We will give you the link. We have the videos in various languages. We'll give you more explanation about that as we go along. Also, for your information, this event is being recorded. So in case you cannot stay till the end, you can always watch it again afterwards. So we just make sure we're not going to let you off the hook. You are connected, you will see this event. We're live here today from the Press Club in Brussels, and we'd like to thank them very much for their hospitality today. And we will also invite you to tweet about the event, hashtag Farm to Fork Paradoxes in one word, F2F Paradoxes, to the number 2. So please do take this debate to social media. And finally, you will have the opportunity to send us your questions. Our speakers will take your questions as we go. Use the question and answers tag in the platform. So at the bottom of your screen, you have Q&A or Q&R if your screen is in French or any other language. So please send your questions in that particular part of the platform so that we can redirect them to our speakers when the time comes. My name is Florence Ranson, and I will be your moderator for this morning. I'm very happy to welcome you on behalf of the two organizers of this event, Carni Sostenibili in Italy and the European Livestock Voice. These two organizations have decided to join forces because they wanted to raise awareness about the way they view Farm to Fork, the Farm to Fork strategy launched by the European Commission a few months ago. The two organizations decided to do so in the form of videos, short videos, which they are going to present today and which they're going to be disseminating throughout Europe in the coming weeks. In order to set the scene and put things in the right context, I think that we can have a view a look at this very first video. It's a short introduction to the whole topic, to the whole issue, and why we're doing this. So let's have a view, let's have a look at the very first video.
The 9 paradoxes of farm to fork. At this time, Europe is reviewing its food system and proposing a strategy for transitioning to more sustainable production.
And if you want to see the video
it is called Farm
in full
to
screen,
Fork,
please
and it is
click
part
on
of a larger
speaker
and more
view.
complex plan called the Green Deal. This project contains ambitious and far-reaching targets, but there are also a few paradoxes, stemming from the preconception that meat is not sustainable for the environment nor our health. Let's start with a premise. Livestock farms today are very different from once upon a time. They have evolved by learning to use innovation, needing fewer resources and becoming more efficient. But few people are aware of this evolution because over the past decades, farms, once widespread across our continent, have declined dramatically. Today's generation have never experienced the agricultural and livestock world close up, and they often have an idyllic vision of animal farming. The result? We often talk about agriculture and animal husbandry from an urban perspective, far removed from the reality of livestock production and its natural cycles. This is why the farm to fork strategy presents paradoxes.
Right, so I think this helps set the scene, and at least now you're probably wondering about those paradoxes. So are we all. So let's dive into the heart of the matter. And for that, I would like to invite Professor Pulina. Professor Pulina is an agronomist by training, and he's also the president of Carni Sostenibili. Professor Pulina, buongiorno.
Good morning.
Professor Pulina, can you please explain to us what the goal is behind these videos? What are you trying to achieve?
Thank you, Florence, for having me this morning, and good morning to everyone that are following us. There are several reasons.
Paradox number 1.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Is that okay? There are several reasons why we felt to need to create these videos, but mostly we felt to need to show the reality of our sector in view of the farm to fork strategy and to set the record straight about its consequences. Today, 40% of the entire European agri-food market is made up of the livestock sector. It has a value of 170 billion of euros and employs more than 4 million people directly. We therefore feel entitled to intervene in the public debate that is taking place in view of the approval of the farm to fork strategy by the European Parliament.
Okay, so that really gives us the reason why you've done those videos. But what's the objective of the livestock chain, the livestock supply chain? What is behind those videos and behind the very approach that you mentioned?
Yes, we wanted to create a sustainable food system to continue to guarantee food supply, proper nutrition, food preferences, and public health, and at the same time protect the environment and animal welfare. Practically, our objectives coincide with the ambitious one of the farm to fork strategy, which aims to create a fair, healthy, and environmentally friendly food system as a part of the broader objective of the Green Deal. However, while we all share these objectives, it appears that the initial formulation of this European strategy involves operational choices that lead to obvious paradoxes. As currently planned, farm to fork would make difficult, if not impossible, to keep the balance between environmental sustainability and food security.
Why is that? Why would it make it impossible?
Among its objectives, the farm to fork proposed by Commission includes the reduction of livestock production. We want to show how inappropriate a proposal that is. Today, we want to present to policymakers an appeal based on the description of some of these paradoxes we have identified. The 9 paradoxes that we want to highlight are related to nutrition, land use, environment, economy, animal welfare, fertilizers, employment, our gastronomic heritage, and food safety.
Okay, so that's the list of paradoxes, but concretely speaking, what are they? Where do we find them?
Let me synthesize some of them, the most significant ones. I start with environment. Today, farmers are increasingly in the eye of the storm due to their supposed contribution to climate change. Yet, data tell us that livestock in Europe is responsible for only 72.2% of emissions compared to the world average of 14.5%. The meat sector alone accounts for around 4% of global greenhouse emissions in Europe. So, wouldn't it be paradoxical to reduce the number of farms and then be forced to import meat for countries that have much less efficient and more polluting farming systems? In addition, animals are naturally complementary to human life because 86% of their diet is based on plant parts that cannot be digested by humans, such as grass, hay, or crop or food residues, rich in cellulose. If paradoxically farms disappeared, we would have no to worry about disposing a huge masses of plant residues, which a great impact on the environment and landscape. Another aspect is the European Commission's plans to reduce the use of fertilizers by 20% and increase organic production by 25% by 2030. But the grow organic fruit, grain, and vegetable livestock is needed, as their manure allows the soil to be naturally fertilized without the use of chemical fertilizers. So how can we increase aim to organic production without livestock?
Right.
In terms of,
please continue.
No, I won't speak about economy. It's another paradox. So, right, economy, the livestock supply chains is one of the most complex and interconnected activities of whole production ecosystem. Primary food products depend on livestock farming, such as milk, cheese, and other dairy products, meat or eggs. However, what people don't remember or don't know is that numerous non-food supply chains also depend on livestock farming. I'm thinking here of products such as hydro leather for shoes, bags, sofas, cars, etc., biomedical capsule from medicine, organic health valves, etc., the cosmetics and the detergent supply chain, cream, soap, etc., the pet food supply chain, organic fertilizers, which are also essential for organic farming and agricultural and industrial biomasses necessary to produce renewable energy, such as biogas or biomethane.
Right, so you have given us an overview of indeed the environmental and economic impact and the impact on not only on agriculture but on the byproducts supply in case we don't have livestock anymore. But what about the impact on other sectors?
Yeah,
the impact of these paradoxes, of course.
Yeah, Europe today is one of the largest agricultural producers in the world. The drop in production, inevitable with some farm-to-fork choices, will lead to a consequent decrease in global food availability and inevitable increases in the prices of raw materials. This will impact primarily the pockets of European consumers, but the decline in production will also lead to tensions on global prices, paradoxically impacting areas of the world with food supply problems.
Right. Right. Thank you, Professor Pulina. But listening to you, can't Europe do better? I mean, couldn't we do better with less livestock?
Yeah. Another paradox concerns the use of land and arises from a prejudice. Some claim that farms subtract precious land for human nutrition. Well, data tell us that over the last 60 years, the land used for farming and grazing in Europe has remained constant, while the land covered by forest increased by 8.5 million of hectares. During the same period of time, the population has grown by over 125 million individuals. What do these numbers tell us? That the livestock sector has increased productive efficiency without occupying any more land. So clearly, it is not just the livestock sector that is impacted by these paradoxes.
Thank you, Professor Pulina, for setting the record straight, as you said yourself in the beginning. I'd like now to turn to our second speaker this morning, the representative of the European Livestock Voice, Birte Steenberg. Birte, good morning.
Good morning to you, and good morning to everybody listening out there.
Birte, what's the role of the European Livestock Voice in this whole process, in this whole project?
Yes, please let me start by telling a little bit about who we are, because we are a quite new multi-stakeholder group of like-minded associations in Brussels. And we went together because we felt that there was a need to bring back a more balanced debate about the livestock sector. We present the sectors ranging from animal health to feed, and from meat to leather and fur, and also from breeding to animal farming and farmers. And what we really want to do with our multi-stakeholder group is to give some decent and true information about how farming and livestock is produced in the EU as we speak. As we just saw in the introduction video, the farming system has been changed quite a lot in the last 40 years. And when I grew up, I am born in 1965. I'm not proud of it, but that's how it is. When I was a kid, everybody had a connection to a farmer. I had two uncles who were farmers, so I was out there a lot of the time, and I also helped in the stable with different things. That was fine. So everybody back then had a connection and knew what was going on. People knew how their food was produced. Then the numbers of farms declined, and a fewer people nowadays have a connection, as it was shown in the video. And in the same time, we from the farm and agricultural livestock sector have to admit that we haven't been good at telling the story of the transition. We haven't been good at communicating. And there is a huge communication gap, and that's what we are trying to repair a little bit with the European Livestock Voice. Especially during the last 15 years, with the introduction of social media, there's been an even larger gap, because there, of course, a lot of people would like to discuss food and agriculture, and we have not been very active in that field. So others have taken over, and this has unfortunately led to a lot of misunderstandings and also myths circling around. So we hope to be able to tell the true facts about livestock production, so everybody can make informed choices. And as it says in the very fine banner behind Florence, it said that we are not there to try to tell people what to do, what to think, but we would like to give them information so they can make their choices on a more informed basis. This goes for the consumers, but it also goes for the politicians. And that's where we come to today's program. Carni Sostenibili was actually the inspiring factor of the European Livestock Voice. Carni Sostenibili was founded already back in 2012, and they do a fantastic job in Italy. And when we heard about this project, making these videos, we contacted them and asked, can we join in, please? And they were so kind and let us in, and we have had a great process around it. We all think that we need a change in the way we live in the EU if we want to deliver a decent planet to the next generations. And therefore, we think that, that the Commission has taken the initiative to do something. It's really, really fine. But we would like to be a part of that process. We feel that we haven't really have the possibility to speak up and to tell what we have actually already done in the European livestock sector. Of course, we can't just rest on the laurels. We still have a lot of work to do, but we have a lot of expertise to provide to the debate and to all the analysis that is going to be made. And we really would like to be a part of that discussion. So we really hope that the Commission will use us much more, give us questions, give us tasks to do, and we will be a part of the process.
So the question's been thrown out there, and if we have people from the Commission listening to us today, I hope they will hear your call. But why now? I mean, it's not new, it's not. So why now in particular?
Well, actually, right now, the Farm to Fork strategy is debated in the European Parliament. It has already been up in the Agri and Envy Committee, and it's going to be discussed in the plenary after the summer break. So we feel that it's a really urgent to try to inform the politicians in the Parliament, but also the ones sitting in the Council and also the EU officials in the Commission, feed them with all the information we have, because we have a sense that the debate around farming and agriculture has been a bit emotional rather than scientific. And we feel if you want to make a sustainable policy, then you have to base it on science. And this is what we're trying to bring basis to the, we're trying to bring science to the forefront of the political debate. This week, again, why are we doing it now? This week, it's also Rural Vision Week, and where the Commission aims to meet the challenges and opportunities facing rural areas. And livestock production presents a large amount of the total agricultural activity in these areas, so we need to be a part of the discussion. The reality of livestock production needs to be taken into account.
Right, so we know what your role is and we know why now, but concretely, I mean, Professor Pulina explained why those videos and the broad context. What are you trying to achieve then, producing those videos and disseminating them now and for the future?
Well, actually, in the climate debate, livestock production, and especially meat, has become the scapegoat. Professor Pulina mentioned some numbers on how the livestock sector in the EU, how big a part of the emissions of greenhouse gases the livestock sector has. And nobody really knows how much it is, but they know if I can do something myself as a consumer to help the climate, then I can stop eating meat. That might not be the best way to improve the climate. Nobody is talking about that there is huge contributions also from other sectors like transport and energy. And what we like to do is to shed a light on these facts and hopefully give people a more positive look on agriculture and especially livestock. So to see how much this actually contributes to our society, because it has a huge contribution. Nowadays, there's a real disconnect between farming and citizens and also politicians. And that's really a huge mistake and a huge error. As I said before, we can blame ourselves for some of it because we have been really bad at communicating, and we're trying to repair that now. we're trying to rebalance the debate. So we ask the policymakers to support the role played by the livestock sector and to appreciate the progress that we have already made and to help us make more by using innovation and technology.
So innovation and technology are the right ways to go. So with that in mind, what are your next steps then?
Well, what we really hope is that we could get involved much more in the current processes so we can achieve an actual balance between environmental challenges, food security, and economic sustainability for the rural sector. And with these videos, we launch an appeal to the EU institutions because we really want to establish a more systematic dialogue. And we really feel we are part of the solution. So please use all the expertise that are in the livestock sector in Europe. Use our inputs so together we can make a fair, healthy, and environmentally friendly food system in the EU. And now I think you should show the rest of the video because it's so great. It's made by Carni Sostenibili.
Thank you, Birte. Thank you. Indeed, I think now we're all very curious to have the detail of these 9 paradoxes. So now that we have the context, let's see the actual points made by the 2 organizations.
Paradox number 1, nutrition. Science states this clearly. From prehistoric times till today, consumption of animal proteins favors the development of the human brain because, from a nutritional point of view, animal proteins are the most efficient. In a few calories, we find all 9 essential amino acids, 16 vitamins and minerals, and 10 bioactive compounds. In other words, if we human beings have become the intelligent and evolved beings of today, we owe it in large part to the omnivorous diet and the nutritious aspects of foods of animal origin. Paradox number 2. Land use. It is widely believed that livestock takes valuable land away from crops for human consumption, but that's not true at all. In Europe, the land used for farming and grazing has remained almost constant over the last 60 years, while the population has grown by over 125 million individuals, and the average lifespan has lengthened by about 10 years, with a life expectancy of almost 80 years of age. Animals are naturally complementary to human life because 86% of their diet is based on plant parts rich in cellulose, such as crop residues, grass, and hay, which are not digestible by people and which are converted into proteins with a high biological value. Paradox number 3, the environment. Where there is livestock production, there are people who are invested in protecting the land, avoiding its abandonment, degradation, hydrogeological instability, and loss of biodiversity. Meat is increasingly the scapegoat when it comes to CO2 emissions. But in Europe, livestock are responsible for 7.2% of greenhouse gas emissions, which are already more efficient today than the world average of 14.5%. Where does the remaining 85 to 90% come from? Much of global warming comes from the use of fossil fuels to produce energy in industry, the residential sector, and transport. A return flight from Rome to Brussels emits more CO2 per passenger than moderate consumption of meat for a whole year for that same person. Paradox number 4, economy. The farm-to-fork strategy hints at a progressive downsizing of the European livestock sector. This could lead to importing meat from other countries, where production has a greater impact on the climate. Emissions know no boundaries, so global air pollution would increase. And the economic impact of imports also needs to be accounted for. Furthermore, the livestock sector is interconnected with dozens of other sectors. Reducing this sector also means putting other sectors in crisis. Paradox number 5, animal welfare. European legislation on animal welfare is one of the most advanced and comprehensive in the world. If we stopped raising livestock in Europe and imported meat from other countries, we would have to ask ourselves, would animal welfare be protected? Paradox number 6, fertilizers. The European Commission plans to cut fertilizers by 20%. and to increase organic production by 25% by 2030. But to grow organic vegetables, livestock is needed. Manure allows the soil to be fertilized without the use of chemical fertilizers. Less livestock means less natural fertilizers, more chemicals, and more desertification. Paradox number 7. Employment. On average, each livestock farm guarantees 7 jobs in rural areas. Without farms, and with the consequent depopulation of agricultural areas, new job losses would occur. Paradox 8. Culinary and cultural heritage. The goal of the Farm to Fork strategy is to create shorter supply chains and strengthen the resilience of regional food systems, such as geographical indications. This objective clashes with the globalization of ultra-processed and synthetic food made with no territorial identity or cultural heritage. Paradox number 9. Food security. With the COVID-19 crisis, the issue of food security is once again in Europe's headlines. We are all quite suddenly more vulnerable. According to the FAO, over the next 30 years we will have to feed over 2 billion more people. Furthermore, in 2050, about 70% of the world's population will live in cities and urban areas, and a small percentage of the population will have to manage agricultural production. What would happen if animal production, and therefore related agricultural activity, continued to reduce? We would have less food to eat, and this would generate social chaos. The debate right now seems to be riding an emotional wave, and this is very dangerous. Only science can help us understand how to truly organize sustainable production on a global scale, but one that guarantees food for all. Faced with this scenario, it is more reasonable to appreciate and support livestock farms rather than denigrate them. For these reasons, we appeal to the European institutions. Europe has a great opportunity to use the Green Deal to appreciate the progress made by its agricultural and livestock systems. It would be unforgivable to waste this advantage. The future lies in innovation and technology to produce more with fewer resources. The livestock system is ready to play its role. We ask the European institutions to involve in the decision-making process all professionals and experts in the sector who, without ideologies but with their own skills, can facilitate the transition towards a balance between environmental and economic sustainability.
Thank you very much. I think that indeed that answered quite a few of the questions that many of you in the audience may have had. These videos will be available as of now, or as of midday today, in 7 languages. So of course in Italian and in English, as you have just seen, but they will also be available in French, German, Spanish, Portuguese, and Polish. Maybe we will be able to have some other language versions in the future, but at least now you will be able to see them from the websites of various organizations in your countries. We can actually provide the list later on our websites. You will also be able to find them on the websites of Carni Sostenibili and the European Livestock Voice, and on YouTube as well. We will, of course, also be using them on social media in the coming weeks. So there will be plenty more opportunities to see them and go through them in detail. So now I see that we have received quite a few questions from our audience, and I will ask our 2 speakers to stand ready to answer them. Let me go through some of them. Maybe I can start with some that I received in the beginning. Birte, there was a question that we got asking about the study produced by the US Department of Agriculture. they published a study showing the negative economic impact of farm to fork on the European agriculture sector, but also on the rest of the world. And they claim in that study that farm to fork will generate tensions on the prices of raw materials, and it will worsen food security. Now, do you know of a similar study, similar impact study that could have been carried out by the European Commission?
No, and that is actually a really, really big puzzle to us. How can it be that the European Commission has not made a cumulative impact assessment? That's what we like to call it, because they have launched really many initiatives, and each initiative will have an impact on the other. So you can't just make an impact assessment of one initiative and then another on a second and another on a third. You have to see it all as a whole. And that's what they have tried to do at the USDA. And the Commission has not come up with such an impact study, and we simply cannot understand why, and we urge the Commission to do so. And we are not the only ones. The Parliament has also, especially in the discussion that's been made in the Agri and Envy Committee, asked for this. And just this week in the Council, it was also from a number of member states asked, why are we not having such a cumulative impact assessment? We have to base our future policies on some facts about how it will influence the whole system. So really, we encourage the Commission to make such a cumulative impact assessment as soon as possible.
Thank you. And we got another question from a press agency for you, Professor Pulina. Yeah. You said in your answers to my original questions that the part of soil used for breeding has been stable for the last 60 years, despite an increase in production. And the Commission, for its part, says that the share of livestock land or land used for livestock breeding is 68% of all the land used for agriculture. Now, shouldn't this enormous share of land be reduced?
Okay, thank you for the questions, and I can clarify this point. That is the heart of the paradox number 2. Actually, we use the 68% of the 160 million of hectares, that is the agricultural land in Europe for livestock. But more or less 40 million of hectares are used for cereals that are cultivated extensively and seed oils. And the remainder, 70 million of hectares, are pasture, meadows. And if we abandon farming, we have to transform the pasture and meadows in cultivated land. So we will have a big impact on the environment, because the principal impact is the reduction of biodiversity. The second impact, that lose the carbon that is stocked in the soil. And we have a reduction of the availability of food of animal origin that we have to substitute with food of vegetable food that we have to produce more to have the same contribution to nutrition quality of our diet.
Thank you very much. I just have a little problem. I seem to have lost my connection to the questions. So yes, I've lost the, I'm awfully sorry about this. If my colleagues could give me the text of the questions, because I have lost the connection and
I saw some question about.
Yeah, you can see, you can actually, Professor Pulina and Birte,
Yes.
you can see them on the discussion. There we are. I'm back online. So good. Now I can see the questions again. There we are. So we had a question, like for some reason, there we are. I can see the, I'm sorry, it's just for some reason, I don't.
Maybe in the meantime,
You can see them actually. You can see
Yes.
the questions in the on the right hand side. They didn't come through questions and answers. They came through the discussion, but it's the same. You can. So if you want to take the first questions while I try to reconnect, Birte or Professor Pulina.
Don't worry.
Good. Thank you.
There is a question on how can we reduce antimicrobial resistance and antibiotic use by 50%, which is a very important goal. And with such restrictive goals, with such restrictive and costly registration system for alternative additives in the EU, how to control in this respect quality and safety of animal products imported into Europe. It's a very broad question. I might take the first part of it. How can we reduce the use by 50%? Well, actually, the use of antibiotics in the livestock sector has already gone quite heavily down. And of course, therefore, it's very important for us how the baseline is set on this very topic. Because we don't want to punish the front runners who have already reduced the use of antibiotics quite heavily. Just one example, I'm a Secretary General of the poultry sector, and in Italy, the antibiotic use in poultry have been reduced with 82% during the last 5 years. And that's just one example. There are many other good examples from other European countries. So we are on the right track when it comes to reducing antibiotics. And it's also a very important thing. I'm educated as a veterinarian, and it lies very close to my heart. We need to reduce the use of antibiotics to be able to have antibiotics to for our children and grandchildren. But we are really on a good path there. And maybe, Professor Pulina, maybe you could reflect a little bit on how can we control this in the products that we import into Europe?
Yeah, I think that the European control are quite strict. And we can impose agreement with our international partner, to reduce the use of antibiotics, but it is quite difficult to control. And we do the control in the food, of course, of animal origin. And the situation is that only a 0.2% is positive in that control. So we are sure that our meat, milk, and eggs are safe in this case. But I think that we can improve our situation, reducing use of antibiotics by improving the biosecurity of the farmers first. Second, monitoring the health of our animals by biotechnology, precision farming, introducing the precision veterinary practice in our farms. So we have reduced by 39% the use of antibiotics by 2010, and we can reduce more than 50% because the goal is 50% of the nowadays consume of antibiotics. We done in the past 10 years more than to be able to do in the next 10 years.
I totally agree with you, Professor Pulina, and just a little peep from the veterinary medicine side. Have we seen the same results in the human sector?
Yep.
Question mark. Okay, are you back on track, Florence?
I am, yes. I am. So, yeah, now we had a question about organic farming. How can we increase the share of organic farming, which is statistically associated with lower yields, assuming that the population will continue to increase? And as we can read in one of the documents, I guess from the Commission, 33 million people in the EU cannot afford a wholesome meal every day or every second day. So a very ambitious goal is being set to reduce the use of pesticides. And at the same time, it is stated that climate change brings new threat to plant health. So how do we reconcile all that? More organic farming, better plant health, and at the same time, keeping the same number of animals. I think that's basically what this question is summing up.
Would you like me to start? Because then I would be happy to.
Please do.
The very honest answer is, I don't know. And that's why we really feel that we need a cumulative impact assessment to have all these things revealed. And there is one thing I really would like to say here, and that is, I have seen in many documents and reports and that you put organic almost equalizes sustainable, and that is simply not how I see it. I buy organic products, I like the concept, it's fine, but sustainability for me is so much more than organic. It is because if you produce, for instance, I know the chickens, so that's why I talk about them. If you want to produce an organic chicken, you need to use more water, you need to use more feed. So it has a higher climate impact to produce an organic chicken. Then there are some animal welfare things where you can say that runs a little bit in the other way. So, but you have to find the balance. So to find out how to make both the environment happy and the food security system happy, and also the affordability, because as you said, there are many people in the EU and in the world who can't afford these products, and we need to find out how to do that in a proper way, because we need segmentation. So there is organic products for the people who are able to and want to buy them, that's fine, but we also need some good and high quality products for the people who might not be as fortunate as the ones buying organic.
Thank you. Professor Pulina, would you like to add something?
No, I totally agree with Birth. I will join some concept about the digital transition, because with the digitalization of our farm can help us to use less and produce more. And if we intensify some chain, we can set aside land to renaturalization and to have more land used for carbon sequestration. So extensivization, I think, is not a good idea in this moment.
Thank you. We have another question from Rachele Samo from Sputnik in Italy. What are you going to do if the Commission is not going to talk to you or with you? What are your future steps?
Well, we are sure that the Commission is going to talk to us. But of course, we are also in close contact with the European Parliament. And I know for sure that there are quite a few people from the European Parliament watching us here today. And we are going to take even more contact with them. But also the Council. Our members in the association from the European Livestock Voice, we are all umbrella associations for national associations in all of the EU member states. And these associations are also doing a great job in informing their national governments on how they see the farm to fork and the Green Deal, how we can make it a fantastic opportunity for the EU to create a really good and fair and healthy food system for the future. But we need to take in all aspects and also all the good experiences that we have from the livestock and the farming side.
Professor Pulina?
Oh, I will not to say other thing than better. We are not a political association. We are a cultural association, no profit, and our goal is to inform on science-based fact, and that we have not direct contact with the Commission.
Okay, and we have another question here. What do you think about feed additives able to reduce the methane emission in cattle and increase the productivity in meat and milk? The use of these additives could help to reduce the environmental impact of cattle. Could it?
Yes, yes, I know there are several studies that are exploring the use of algae or other additives to reduce methane emission, and the promises are good. We can cut for 20-25% of that emission. But I have to explain that methane is not the same carbon that the CO2 emitted by the transport or by cement or other stuff that they use fossil carbon, because methane that are emitted from animals are a biogenic carbon, and it's into a recycle of the carbon by animals, plants, soil, and animals. So if you use a reduction of methane emission that stay in atmosphere for 10-15 years, and CO2 stay in the atmosphere for thousands of years, you can reduce the impact of the CO2, because the CO2 is absorbed by the grass, the plant, and the use of animal in the cycling. This is mill owner work. Mill owner is a colleague that work in California. At University, and this paper show clearly that methane of ruminants is part of the solution of climate change.
Birte, would you like to add something?
I think Professor Pulina did an excellent job, and I know most about poultry, and there's not that much methane involved there, so no, thank you.
Right, we have another question here to both of you. What do you think the proposed EU animal welfare label, or how do you think that animal welfare label proposal will impact farmers, and how will it contribute to the goal of creating a level playing field?
Well, let me start by saying that the EU is one of the few areas in the world where we actually have legislation on animal welfare. I don't know if everybody is aware of that, but in many other parts of the world, animal welfare is only something that you look upon on voluntary schemes. We have legislation on animal welfare, and it's based on science, on advice from EFSA. The animal welfare legislation is going to be evaluated during the farm to fork process, which I think is really, really fine. Science evolves, and we should look at what we can do better. That's really, really fine. When it comes to animal welfare labeling, it might be a good idea in some places. It might not be such a good idea in others. And from us, it's really, really important that it's seen in context with sustainability labeling. Because as I touched upon before, sometimes animal welfare and sustainability is not all following each other. So you have to find a balance. And I can only say that in Europe, the conventional production is criticized very heavily by many people. But if the EU law is complied with, then the animal welfare is okay. because it's based on science, and we are going to, as I said, it's going to be evaluated, and maybe it's going to be changed, and because we know a bit more, and that is fine. But we have legislation on animal welfare, so we are okay when it comes to animal welfare. Professor Polina, do you have another take on that?
Yes, no, I totally agree that labeling welfare is right, but we shall overcome the legislation, because I know directly a lot of farmers that they love their animals. They use welfare as a positive act, because without animals we have not farmers. So, over the legislation that is strict, as Birte said before, we are sure that our farmers are use all rule of welfare, because they take care for animals.
Exactly.
Right.
They, and also many times, sorry, Florence, but I mean, animal welfare is also, it sounds horrible, but it's also market driven, because you actually, you get a better revenue of what you produce if you treat the animals right. So if you're not treating a cow or a pig or a chicken right, then it's not going to give you the profit that you would love it to do. So there we are. And as Professor Polina said, when you become a farmer, you do it because you love the farming side, you love the animals. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you, both of you. One final question, because we are nearing the end of our allocated time, and we do have quite a few questions. We will, to the audience out there, we will record these questions, and we will try to get back to you, maybe in writing between us. We'll share the questions, but we'll try and make sure all the questions are answered, if not now, live, in the coming days via email or somehow. So we will get back to you. So one final question here to continue on the animal welfare point. In terms of the animal welfare paradox, have you considered any other measures or reason for a change in the approach of farm to fork that addresses problems associated with confinement farm animal production systems, such as the increased use of alternative, semi-intensive, extensive livestock farming systems, multi-purpose land use, and so on?
Well, yes, we already touched a bit up on this, that by saying that segmentation, of course, is necessary. There will be a market, I'm sure, for products that, organic products, for free range, for whatever, and of course we should provide that, definitely. But if we go over only to use these systems, then I am afraid that there's going to be a problem with the food security. So that's why, again, a cumulative impact assessment where we have these things studied quite well would be a really good idea.
Professor Polina?
Okay, I think that there is a little bit confusion between confinement and permanently confined animals. All farm animals are confined. There are fences in the field, so all animals stay into the farm, they cannot go outside the farm. When they are permanently confined, they can have a space to move, to have the freedom to move, to do their natural behavior. And I think that the semi-extensive choice depends on the quality of land. If you have a rich land and you can produce a lot of forage there, you cannot come back by transforming this productive land in pasture to allow the cow to graze this land and reduce production per cow and per hectare. So I think that is a choice that is a part of a strategy of the entrepreneur that can choose that what they want achieve in their strategy of farming. I think that the health problem is to respect animals in all kind of livestock farm.
Thank you very much. Well, while you have the floor, Professor Pollina, I'm going to ask you to give us 1 or 2 concluding sentences very quickly.
Okay, I ask for the European Commission to hear the voice of the farmers.
That's short and to the point. Birte, what's your concluding words?
Well, it's difficult to come after Professor Pollina because he was so very precise, but I really, really hope for everybody's sake, especially my children and hopefully grandchildren in a few years, that we manage all together to have a fantastic dialogue around these things, so we together can make a good plan for a good food system for the future. Because in the process we are in now, it's sort of like we're sitting in 2 ditches shouting at each other, and that's not going to help. Let's talk. Let's find out what we have to make compromises, all of us, but I'm sure that we can, if we go together and help each other, can make a really good future for our European food system, which produces the food of the highest quality in the world.
Thank you, Birte, and thank you all of you for following us this morning. I could see that at some point there were over 400 of you connected to this debate, so we're delighted, and we hope that the words of our 2 organizing organizations have been heard. Thanks a lot to both our speakers as well. Quick reminder, don't forget to look again at the videos, to check them out on YouTube, on the websites, in the various languages that you're interested in. You will receive a follow-up email probably tomorrow with links to the videos and the main highlights. I'd like to thank the Press Club for their hospitality again, thank our colleagues of the technical team behind us for helping us put this together, and the teams at European Livestock Voice and Carni Sostenibili for making this possible. So, ladies and gentlemen, have a very nice rest of the day, and most of all, stay safe.